A few years ago, I watched a Frontline documentary on immigration. The camera panned over a crowd of demonstrators, and right there in the middle, I saw a sea of bright yellow shirts with people carrying a bright yellow banner with a quite distinctive heart on it. I paused the show, squealed in delight, and shouted, "Those are my people. Those are Unitarian Universalists, and they're doing their thing." Our shirts are distinctive. People are beginning to know us by their bright color and the bold statement that we are on the side of love. Our clergy and our congregations and our people from all over the country are present at witness events, demonstrations, and marches. It's a beautiful thing. We're coming to be known by this color. We are able to find our people in a large crowd when we are suited up in our yellow shirts. We're known as the love people. Feels good, right? Our yellow shirts are our own personal superhero outfits. We take the stance for justice and truth and love. But what do we do when we're in our alter ego state, our normal day to day lives? Are we known as the love people then? Do we take the time to show love in the small ways that only garner attention by the person we're showing love to? Are we generous with our love in the places where it could matter most? A few years ago, the words to our hymn, Standing on the Side of Love, were changed to Answering the Call of Love. It was at our 2016 General Assembly, that time once a year where Unitarian Universalists from all over the country gather and we do our governance. In the days leading up to General Assembly, the ministers meet for ministry days, and it was an intense time. Besides a lot of other things going on, there had been a push by some of my dear colleagues to start questioning the ableist language in our liturgy, in our hymnals, and in our metaphors. Things came to a head during this ministry days in General Assembly. Many colleagues listened. Sadly, some did not. Those who did spent some time in discernment and conversation and worked on changing the words they use. Why? Because those words were causing harm. There's a hymn I learned that year, and one of the lines is, "I will not hurt you with the words from my mouth." That's what it comes down to, right? If what we are saying hurts someone, then shouldn't we work to change that? It's because of listening to these colleagues that I often use the phrase rise as you're willing and able instead of stand. It's because of listening to these colleagues that Jason Shelton was open to changing one line in his hymn. And with that simple change, I personally think the song is better. It's because of listening to these colleagues that the Standing on the Side of Love campaign changed to the Side with Love campaign. It's more inclusive. It's a lot easier to say. We still have our distinctive yellow shirts and can be spotted from across the town square. And we are saying to people that recognize that what we are saying was hurting them. And we strive to do better. In seminary and in pastoral care training, we're taught that sometimes the best and only thing you can do with someone is to simply sit there with them. No platitudes, no prayers, no words, simply sitting there and holding that space for them. No distractions, no checking your phone or email, no watching the clock. Sitting there, being present, letting the other person know that you really see them. That is love. That is generous love. And it may appear small to you, but to the person receiving it, it's huge. Being present can break through the loneliness in people's lives. It's the cure many of us need. I believe that sharing that love is what can cure our hurting world. But what good is our stance to side with love if we don't do that in our day-to-day lives? And I'm not talking about the romantic love that is celebrated today with pink and red balloons and flowers and candy. I'm talking about the love we should have for our fellow human beings, because we are all part of the human family. The love we're on the side of when it comes to social justice and witness events, that love. Okay, so how? What does that look like? So for the past few years, I've been doing this kind of experiment. Now, I'm naturally shy, but lately, I've been trying to go out of my way to speak to the people who I encounter in my journey through the day who are often invisible. You know the people I'm talking about: cashiers, servers, people who work in the service industry, delivery people, the ones who ask 100 times a day, How are you? I've started pausing in my rush to get payment out and look at them and I say, I'm good. How are you? And you want to know what I found? Easily 8 times out of 10, they are shocked. And it causes them to pause for a moment. And every time I hear, I'm good. Thank you so much for asking. Do you know what happens at that moment? They've been seen. In that simple greeting, combined with pausing, I have said, I see you. I acknowledge your presence in my life and in this world. In this brief moment, know that you're not alone. I find that the person I'm speaking to seems to be a bit happier and a bit more connected when I leave. And sure, it's 5 to 10 minutes of interaction at most. But I hope that it is something that provides them a bright spot in their day, especially now. I see you. I love you. My friend Mark makes it a habit to repeat back a server's name, and not just when they first come to the table either. He makes it a point to use their name every time he speaks to them. And the first time we went to lunch, I asked him about that. And he said it was a new thing for him, but he felt it was important to remind the server that he sees them, not just as a server, but as a fellow human being. And we had the opportunity to have lunch a few times over the years of friendship, and I watched as every server lit up when he called them by name. I see you. I love you. My brother worked for a time in the service industry, and he taught my family about tipping when we go out to eat, about how hard it is for servers to do what they're doing and survive on abysmally low wages, about how they often take the brunt of problems that weren't their fault. So I always tip well, 20% minimum, usually higher than that. And when the service is slow or the server seems rushed, I would simply smile and say, wow, you're really busy today. I hope you get a chance to catch your breath for a moment. And every time they would visibly relax because I'm not yelling, I'm not taking out on them something that isn't usually their fault, because I recognize that they are having a really rough day. And because I create a space where they know they can come back to and be able to breathe, to be seen, to be safe. I see you. I love you. When I went to Chicago for classes, there were often various people panhandling along the route I took from the train to school and back again. And when I first started attending Meadville, I would do what I was taught to do by friends who lived in bigger cities. I walked with my eyes down or straight ahead, and I didn't make eye contact. I didn't respond. But it would leave my heart heavy. These were people. These are people who are part of my human family. And if I was calling myself a Unitarian Universalist, if I was called to be a minister, shouldn't I be living out my principles? And if I believed in the worth and dignity of every person, am I showing that by ignoring people? The answer is no, I'm not. So I started to answer. And I often didn't have cash or change on me, but I looked at them and said, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash. I hope you'll be safe. The first time I did that, I had a man say to me, thank you. You're the first person all day to speak to me. And that means more than if you had given me money. I see you. I love you. Now, it doesn't mean I don't give something when I do have it. There was one day in particular when I boarded the Orange Line to leave Midway. An older gentleman came and sat next to me while we waited for the L to start. I listened as he spoke, not just spoke, he unburdened himself. He told me he was a proud man and did not want to ask for money. And I told him I didn't have any cash to give him, but I did have some snacks in my bag. And I gave him what I had. He cried. He asked me to pray with him, and I did. It was a beautiful moment for both of us. And I was reminded of the scripture, what you do for the least of these, you do for me. And that moment was holy. I see you. I love you. Let's bring it a little closer to home. I know many of us have experienced a loved one hurting. Big hurt, little hurt, it doesn't matter. And I know, because I know how loving this congregation is, that you reach out to that loved one to see if they're okay. Maybe they're far away, and right now you can't visit them for coffee or even talk to them on the phone to check on them. But you might drop them a letter or a card or an email. And in today's technologically advanced world, we have a multitude of ways to communicate with those we care about. How many of us have received a message from someone we know that simply says, hey, I noticed you're acting differently than normal. Is everything okay? I see you. I love you. If you've been on the receiving end of that, you know how powerful it is. We're all so busy with our lives, it's so easy to lose touch from those we care about. And sometimes a simple acknowledgement that you're thought of is so big at that very moment. Is there someone today you might think about calling or safely visiting or dropping a note to just say, I see you, I love you? But let's go even deeper. What does it mean when we wear our shirts to a march or a rally, carrying our love trumps hate signs, and then allow our anger over the injustices happening around us to spill over in how we talk about our fellow human beings? What does it say about who we are when we resort to name calling the other side, even as we say we are working for justice and love for all? Are we hurting our message? What do we mean when we say we respect the inherent worth and dignity of each person? I see you. I love you. Are we saying that when we call people we disagree with by pithy little names meant to cut and hurt? Are we living our values? Are we showing in our daily actions that we are the love people? Are we providing an opportunity for conversation, for relationship, for change? I see you. I love you. Or are we slamming doors and drawing lines in the sand? A few years ago, there was a movement to wear a safety pin to show that you were a safe person. It was a symbol for those who were marginalized and scared to know that the person wearing that pin would help them. It meant the person wearing it was willing to help in any way they could should a situation arise. Many Unitarian Universalists wore the safety pin, and many still do. Great. But do the words that come out of our mouths match the symbol on our shirts? That symbol means we will help everyone who needs it. We don't get to pick and choose. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, even the ones we don't agree with. Are we truly saying in all our actions and words and deeds, I see you, I love you? I want to challenge us all to remember who we are, what we say we believe in, the causes we witness for and march in and show up for. Remember those things as we wrestle with the anger and the fear and the frustration over what is happening in our world now. What do we want to say? Not with our words, but with our actions. And I'm not denying the anger and the frustration at the injustices in the world. They are there and they are real. This is not, and hear me on this is not a kumbaya moment where I'm asking us all to put on our rose-colored glasses and pretend that it will be okay. It is not, it may not, and that is very real. What I am saying is that we cannot let our anger and our frustration and our fear push us to do things that are out of line with our message and our faith. We cannot stoop to the level of name calling and being ugly. We should be a sanctuary. And I'm not talking about physical buildings, I'm talking about this community. We do not know who comes through our doors, whether physical or virtual, and what they might be wrestling with. Perhaps they are working through their own choices and values and have heard that we are the safe place to do that. Are we? Are we really? We have values and beliefs that we hold dear as Unitarian Universalists. Proclaim those loudly, proudly, with all your heart and soul. And doing that does not mean calling names or making rude comments about other people. It can't. It diminishes our message and makes the stance we take simply an article of clothing. It should be more than that. Are we going to be generous with our love? Are we going to say, I see you, I love you? Or are we going to make people feel invisible, feel like the other? I encourage you to be generous with your love, with your words, with your actions, and yes, even with your money. It means supporting those causes you believe in. It also means putting your money where your values are. You can't promote and march and witness for a fair living wage and then stiff your server a tip. Doesn't match. You can't say you support this congregation and what you do here and not be generous with your time, talent, and treasure. Our visibility as the love people cannot just be when we're wearing our bright yellow shirts and carrying our signs. It should be in the small, quiet moments too. The ones where there isn't an audience or a press release. The individual one-on-one moments when we say, I see you, I love you. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so.